It's Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, JNelly and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to a very exciting and upbeat episode of Booze, Bets, and Ball. We have a lot of good things to talk about, which is, I think, what we expected after we did our Auburn game preview, but maybe not to this extent where we can talk about Penn State as a top 15 team in the country, the only the only Power 5 team in the country with 2 true road wins already. I mean, Nate, you were there. How was it? Crazy 41-12 win on Saturday.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like you said, you were probably more optimistic than I was. At least you had the guts to pick them last week. I did not. I thought it would be a much closer game, and I couldn't pick a winner. And part of that was me like hedging because I didn't want to be super disappointed when I left. But man, it was like the atmosphere was great in the beginning. The Eagle thing is awesome, and the people there are so nice, and they're really into it. We went to the Tiger Walk before the game, and for 2 blocks basically, you have 50,000 people just there to welcome the team, which is pretty cool. And then we got into the game, and in the beginning, they were pretty fired up. I mean, it was more than Iowa. It wasn't like whiteout level, but it was really exciting. But man, the second half, 5 minutes into the third quarter, people were leaving. Right, once they went up 24. What was it? It must have been 24-6. It started to clear out, and it just got worse and worse. And so, really, just a tremendous time, though.
Yeah. That the closest thing I think we can compare this to would be the 51-6 game against Pitt. Because these 2 games actually had the same score at halftime, 14-6, and then Penn State just blew the doors off the other team in the second half. I mean, the first drive of the game, Clifford makes what I thought was a heads-up play to get out of the pocket, try to get that first down. I think it was 3rd and 8, and gets rocked, and the ball just comes flying out. Thankfully, they recovered. I'm like, oh boy, we're kind of in for it today. And then the defense holds Auburn to the field goal then on the ensuing drive after.
But Auburn did run pretty well, between midfield and the 20, though. Yeah, I mean they got some yards there, and Tank Bigsby looked good early on too.
Yeah. Early on, I was like, oh boy, we're in for a dogfight, and then Auburn kicks the field goal. Clifford brings them down on a nice drive. He had a really nice throw to Tinsley. Yeah. Down the kind of fade, I guess, on the sideline, and then runs it in. Show a lot of toughness to do the QB sneak on the play after that hit, and then to have the nerve to take that, let his number be called on that QB draw for the touchdown. I thought that was an impressive start. And then from that point forward, it was all about the freshman running backs. Katron Allen, 2 touchdowns, and Nick Singleton, 10 carries again, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was maybe the most talked about player in the country after this weekend. I don't know if you disagree with that, but his name was everywhere on Twitter and YouTube after Saturday. Yeah,
that dude is amazing. And he's fast, right? To watch him in person, he had the one it was going away from us. I forget the one that he got down to about the 5-yard line, kind of got caught, but the one where he scored the touchdown, I guess it was the last touchdown where the starters played. The one guy, number 10, the safety, was right next to him, and he just outran him. It was a sight to see. That was amazing. So this kid is going to be awesome. I have started on Twitter a head-to-head comparison, carry by carry, of Nick Singleton versus Saquon for their careers. And through 3 games, Nick Singleton has got a higher average and has got more yards on fewer carries than Saquon did. So I will keep that going for the next 3 years, give or take. So.
Yeah, the yards per carry is insane. It was 17.9 last week, and then 12.4 against an SEC defense. And a team that I thought going in had a pretty good front 7 in Auburn. I thought they were fast and physical, and I mean they kind of showed it early. And then Penn State's O-line, that was It almost, I don't know if this is an exaggeration, but that felt like the best a Penn State offensive line has played since Franklin's been here.
Yep, against what should be a good defense. I think that's absolutely true. We talked last week about some of the plays against Ohio, where it looked very Saquon-ish, where there's no hole.
Right.
Nick Singleton breaks it out, beats a couple of guys and scores a touchdown that way. There was none of that this week. I mean, there were lanes to run through. Everybody's blocking. Keandre Lambert-Smith is blocking 15 yards downfield. The tight ends are sealing the edge, and there's just man on a man, from the front, the five guys in the line. It's beautiful. And if you go watch For the Bloggy video that Kadudi did, he talks about it. If you go back and watch the game, there's a really nice extended highlights that has 80% of the plays or something on CBS on YouTube, and it's just time after time. There's no Auburn guys that are running free, right, and doing anything that remotely is going to get the running back tackled or anything like that. It is so good.
Yeah, they were physical up front. I mean, Brennan Strange has really turned into a do-it-all tight end. I think early in his career, there were some concerns about his blocking ability. And then last year, he struggled with drops at times, especially in, the dreaded Iowa game. But I think he's finally kind of clicked. Everything's clicked. Yeah. He's very all-around tight end right now. And I could see why, even though Theo Johnson did suit up in this game, Strange rarely came off the field.
Yeah, he and Tyler Warren played a lot. I didn't look at the snap counts yet, but there's a lot of tyght end H-back sets with Strange and Tyler Warren, and that matters, right? And that's what Kadudi talked about in the video too, is those compressed sets just give you extra blockers. And when you have a running back like Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and even Kevon Lee had a pretty good game. After going out and coming back in, you just give them the ball and you let Clifford do a little bit less. You put him into the less bad situations more often. Like last year, he had to do everything, and that. He had to do too much and he had already been hurt, but now he might not be in that situation anymore. You can let him do the things that he's good at because you have a hell of a run game so far.
Right. Yeah. And, the offense was fantastic, but for me, this was, I think, what we thought we were signing up for with Manny Diaz, where they gave up a lot of yards. I think Auburn now, a lot of these Auburn passing yards were kind of in, garbage time where no one cared, but they gave up close to maybe 400 yards of offense. I think those numbers are probably skewed by the fact that Penn State had 7 sacks. So the rushing yards, might have been close to negative, if we're being honest. But I thought this was kind of what we signed up for with Manny Diaz. 7 sacks, 4 turnovers. They played fast. The packages were all different. The personnel was always different. I really was impressed with how he called the game and kind of how the players played too.
It was amazing too. I mean, I don't know. I would take, if they're going to do that every week, Penn State's going to go to the playoffs. Again, last week against Ohio, I think they only generated 3 tackles for loss and 0 sacks or something like that, or maybe 1 sack. I don't remember precisely, but it wasn't much. And against Purdue, it wasn't much. And they talked about how Aiden O'Connell is, throwing the ball on time and all this. But there was constant pressure this week. And Adiza Isaac played well, and Chop Robinson played well, and Jair Brown had the, I don't know, whatever you would call the perfecta of a forced fumble, a sack, a tackle for loss, and an interception. Right? He did everything. So like you said, they really came into their own this week, and the Auburn offense kind of sucks, but they couldn't do anything. And there were a couple of big plays, and I think there was a 3rd and 21 where Auburn converted. TJ Finley made a very good throw over, I think it was Daquan Hardy.
Yeah, it was.
Who was running towards the receiver. But that's a factor. That's because TJ Finley broke out of the pocket and scrambled a little bit. I don't mean this, but you're not going to get that against CJ Stroud. The guys can play coverage against CJ Stroud, and he is not the running threat that somebody like TJ Finley is. So I think they're going to be a little less, multidimensional that way. And again, not saying they're going to go and kill Ohio State, and that's 5 weeks from now or whatever.
Right.
But TJ Finley definitely brought another, and then the other guy Ashford too brought another kind of wrinkle that they're not going to face against some of the Big Ten quarterbacks that they have coming.
Yeah, you think you look down the line here in terms of scramblers. I mean, McCarthy from
McCarthy,
Michigan and Stroud can scramble, but in terms of like a pure running quarterback, I'm not really sure they face one this year.
no, none of them are. And like TJ Finley's like 6'7", 260. This dude he's a beast, and he is fast as hell. So it's not the same going forward. So I don't know. Like you don't have to have a spy on the quarterback. You don't have to have the cornerbacks peeking into the backfield so much. They can cover their guys and cover their zones. And when they did that this week, they were very effective. Auburn was only 5 of 14 on third down. So they converted a few big ones, but it wasn't constant. And then, in the red zone, Penn State scored a lot, and Penn State gave up very few red zone yards. So red zone points.
Let me pull those up. Let me get my reading glasses on here so I can.
Oh my God, you're too young for that, bro.
See, well, I need to wear them right now, but the
go down.
It gets distracting. Which slide are we going to?
Go to the last one no, I'm sorry, one before the last one. Go to the red zone allowed.
Don't want to show that. There we
go. So yeah, Auburn got into the red zone, and they did last. Like Penn State allowed teams to get in the red zone last year too. But what this shows is the points per red zone attempt allowed by Penn State defenses since 2009, and you can see right now. So 7 points would be a touchdown every time. 3 points would be a field goal every time. Anything in between or lower is less or in between. So right now they're averaging 4 points per red zone attempt allowed. An average team is somewhere in the 4.8 to 5 range. So they're better than average. They're not quite as good as 2021 with that 3.4, but that every dot is an FCS team. And you can see that 3.4 is as low as any team besides Georgia last year. They were in the top 10 from all teams from 2009 to 2021. They were amazingly good. This year, the team is very good. So 4 is in the top 10%. And, you can give up yards, you can give up some third downs, but if you're either going to generate turnovers in the red zone or hold teams to field goals, you're going to do pretty good, especially if you go up to the points generated in the red zone. This is the Penn State offense and what they're generating out of the red zone, 6.3 points per red zone attempt. So they're 100% scoring. I think they have 1 field goal now and everything else is a touchdown. That differential of nearly a touchdown every time versus, giving up basically a field goal every time is huge. And they're not going to keep up that 6.3 points because that would be, probably one of the top 10 best ever since 2009. But they're on a hell of a pace right now. And you compare, to the best team of late, which is the 2017 team right now, they're outpacing them. So really a fantastic job on both sides of the ball in the red zone.
Yeah, that was the big difference in this game was Penn State was 4 for 4, I think, on red zone touchdowns, if you don't count the fact that they kind of kicked that mercy field goal at the end of the game. Whereas I think Auburn was maybe 1 for 4, 1 for 5, something like that in terms of scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So, that was...
it was just that one. That was the second or third to last drive of the game, right? That's garbage time there. So
Yeah. So in terms of, first team, it was almost, I think it was 4 to 4 to 0 to 4 in terms of red zone touchdowns, which was really the difference in the game, but it was incredibly impressive. This was, I think, the best all-around effort we've seen from them in a while. I mean, maybe since that 51-6 game I brought up, that just seemed, against competent competition too. I'm not talking about Idaho from 2019 or anything, but
and that's exactly what I wrote. So I was sitting in the Atlanta airport at 5 a.m. and I started cranking this out, and that's exactly what I wrote there. Is that this is the best game I've seen. Michigan 2017 was very good, right? But that was probably the next best out of, besides the Pitt game. I mean, this was absolutely fantastic, and it was just relentless. The defense was relentless. The offense didn't take their foot off the gas. Now they ran a lot, but still they kept running. They kept running with their starting back until the game was well out of doubt or well out of reach. So I don't know. Maybe Auburn sucks, but maybe Penn State is really, really, really good. So.
Yeah, Auburn, they've kind of, I feel like maybe in a national stage, a lot more people have looked at this as oh man, Auburn's in trouble than maybe Penn State's good. I think, you can make that argument a couple ways, but I know there's talent on that Auburn team. That is for sure. And the truth is they, over the past 4 years, have about the same blue chip recruit ratio as Penn State. I think Penn State was at 55, Auburn was at 54. So a player pretty much difference. So for them to be pretty much even in terms of talent on the field and Penn State to go on the road and blow them out like that, I know, people can say what they want about the coaching staff down at Auburn, but I think that was a pretty impressive win over a team that a lot of people would consider equally talented.
Yeah, I would agree. And, we talked a lot with Kyle last week about, you shouldn't read too much into the San Jose State game. They were looking ahead, and I get that. And then, you made the point that they were going to have some desperation, and it was clear that this was an important game for them. I mean, all of the videos on the big board are, about revenge from last year. It was very funny. They had Joe Burrow on talking about how the orange out is Jordan Hare is a more intimidating environment than Penn State, in a game that he beat them, right? But he still made that comment, which is quite funny. Yeah. So they were totally hyped for this, and they just got their asses kicked. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much more we can really say about this that maybe people haven't heard yet, but I was thoroughly impressed with the way Penn State played. And I think if Singleton and Allen continue to run the ball this way, the whole James Franklin clock management thing is going to become a thing of the past, just because these guys are playing, top of the line game. And there are 3 games into their college careers that have a long way to go. And honestly, right now, this Penn State team has a lot of vets on it, but it's the young guys really seem to make the big plays. I mean, Carter looks great at linebacker. I tweeted a thing, and it was every true freshman stat line from Saturday. And I think about 5 people replied, "Wait, Carter's a true freshman?" Yeah. I'm like, yeah. They thought he was like a junior just being redshirted or something. Yeah. It was so funny. So, I mean, he's an interesting one too for the future.
And I think the people who follow recruiting, heard about him and how much hype he was getting for his athleticism and everything as coming in as a freshman. But if you were just a casual fan, you would have heard of Denai Dennis Sutton and Nick Singleton, and those probably would have been the 2 big names, and Drew obviously, right? But down the line, you wouldn't have heard of some of these guys, and they are they're so good. 2023, 2024, I think you look at, depending on what happens this year, I think that those are the years where you really look, hopefully, for Penn State to compete for, national championship. But
yeah, and that 2021 recruiting class has caught some flack for a lot of the misses they had. It was the COVID class. They didn't get Rucci. They didn't get Tristan Lay, the 2 5-star tackles from the region. Deontay Thornton, the wide receiver who's doing stuff at Oregon now, decommitted. There's a lot that went wrong there. But when you look and then, you had Lonnie White pick baseball at the last minute too. But when you look at the guys that actually made it to campus, a lot of them already have key roles. Like Landon Tengwall starts or rotates, at least starts though, on the offensive line. Kobe King plays at middle linebacker. Kalen King is obviously a starting corner. The 2 safeties, Reed and Wheatley. Wheatley had the big interception of Finley. Sahadok's rotating kickoffs. There's Wallace is like receiver 4 right now. For how much crap that class got, the guys that actually made it are making a hell of an impact already. And you kind of add those guys with the, incredible talent we see with the 22 class, and then what they're building with the 23 recruiting class with the 2 5-star offensive linemen. I mean, Franklin has done a hell of a job getting the right combination of guys up here, it seems.
Yeah, I agree. And, Johnny Dixon is the only transfer, I guess, who's still around from that class, but he's doing some things too. Jordan Vandenberg, I guess. I mean, he was a community college kid, but he's doing stuff. 2021, 2022 are next year. That's going to be the heart of this team, right? And they're already doing very well. The King brothers, Kobe is starting to come on, and I think he will be the starting middle linebacker in a week or so here. I mean, he played much better this week. just like Adisa Isaac, though, I think, it's getting used to the game again, especially for Isaac, who was out last year, but Kobe King is just getting his first real reps, and he's highly talented. It's just a matter of, being in there in game time in front of 80,000 people and figuring out what works and making plays, and he's doing that now. So, but Kalen King is, I don't know, I would contend he's probably the second best cornerback on the team besides Joey Porter still.
Yeah, so we're going to close the door on Auburn here. Penn State returns home to play Central Michigan. Central Michigan is 1-2. They lost 50 something, 55, 56 something, 57, I think, to 44 against Oklahoma State. But that game was 51-15 at one point, and Oklahoma State just stopped trying. And then they gave up 28 points to Southern Alabama, or sorry, 38 points. Yeah, South Alabama. And then last week they beat Bucknell 41-0. That's like beating a high school. I'm not even going to account for that. So, I mean, this was a team that went 9-4 last year. I think they won the MAC. They returned a lot of talent from that team too, but it seems like they're struggling this year. I'd be kind of shocked if Penn State, even with taking the stars out early, scores below 45 in this game.
Mm-hmm. As a former two-sport Bucknell recruit, I take offense to what you said about Bison. Right? But anyway, Central Michigan is second in scoring in the MAC behind Toledo. So they're averaging 36.3 points per game. Okay, and that's pretty good. You would think. Now the competition isn't great. They're fourth in scoring allowed in the MAC, giving up 32 points per game. So the MAC is the Big 12 junior right now. They're the best scoring defense is Toledo, giving up almost 30. So, I mean, what do you make out of this, right? Oklahoma State kicked their ass, and South Alabama, I love the Sun Belt, but they're middle of the pack Sun Belt at best, and then Bucknell, like you said. So, I don't know. This should be one where Penn State scores 35 in the first half. Nick Singleton has 150 yards rushing. Sean Clifford has 2 or 3 touchdowns to 2 or 3 different guys, and then they all sit for the second half and get ready for Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that's the plan.
I'm sure it's the plan. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I hope. Well, hopefully that's the plan, but also what happens. I'm kind of in a 52-17 type range on this game. I feel like I think the line's up to 28. It opened at only 24 and a half, I think. So it's gone up. I think people are kind of on the Penn State hype train right now, obviously. I want to see how the defense, plays with the same energy they played at Auburn. It's a little different, I think, to get up for Central Michigan than it is for at Auburn, maybe. But, I kind of want to see them do that, keep the same intensity. We'll see what they do with rotations. And then on offense, I mean, look, let's just get in, get out kind of feeling, get those starters in there, score a bunch of points, get out, let Drew get some reps. Maybe Bo Prabula gets in a series or two. That would be nice to see. So, I think before the year, I was actually kind of nervous about this game, not in definitely going to lose type thing, but it kind of a trap game written over it for me, because I thought there was a chance before the year they lose to Auburn, and then to come home and face a team that won 9 games last year, who is going to love to play the underdog role here. I was a little concerned about this, but with the confidence this team has now, I have minimal issues with this game, I feel like.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. Like you said, you want to see if the defense can have the same intensity, but they can't, and they probably won't. And who cares, right? As long as they win the game and nobody gets hurt. I think that's the most important thing. Keep everybody healthy. Defense just needs to generate a couple of stops. Offense needs to score more points than the defense allows, and that's it. And then we move on to Northwestern. But I'm going to say they score 50. Penn State scores 50, and they give up probably maybe in the 20s or something like that. And some of it's in the second half, and nobody cares anymore because they win. So, do they cover 28? I don't know. They're 3-0 against the spread. Right? Let's say they cover 28.
Yeah, I think they have a good chance to do that just because of the offense and how they're running. I think Central Michigan's given up about 300 yards per game through the air. So a lot of that was probably Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, I think, had maybe
I will
close
tell
to
you.
500 passing yards, I feel like, because they barely run the ball.
So they're giving up 298 through the air so far, and that is, let's see, game logs. So Oklahoma State had 406, South Alabama had 337, and Bucknell only managed 153. So, yeah, the two FBS teams they play are averaging like 370 yards against them in the air, which is not very good. Obviously, right? That's pretty poor.
Yeah.
Rush defense. So rush defense only giving up 103 yards on the ground, though. So let's see if Nick Singleton can get his. South Alabama ran for 165 and Oklahoma State ran for 125. So
yeah, I think a lot of that number, I think is a lot. Bucknell, I think, had like 15. Yeah, 15, 21 rushing yards.
So you're not going to learn anything from this game, right? Again, you just don't want anybody to get hurt.
Right.
And you want to win. And even, not to get too far ahead, but like Northwestern is kind of the same thing. Northwestern is right now regarded in the like bottom 10 of FBS. So it's kind of the same thing. You just want to win that game, go into the bye week, figure out what you need to do for Michigan. And then like, that's when the gauntlet really starts. And everybody says 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Yeah. Okay. 1-0. Like, we're not playing. I don't think you're not playing this week or next week, right?
No,
like,
I don't. I would hope not. We're in some trouble then.
Although we might be winning, Penn State might be winning enough that they bring you on. But like, you just got to make it through the net. They made it through the first three, where two of those were thought to be challenging, potentially trap games. Not trap games, but like, 50-50 games going into the season. You get a little reprieve now before there's a 3-game gauntlet on the backside of the bye week that is going to make or break what this team is. So,
yeah, I think, like you said, they kind of went through a little bit of test now. If they get to relax a little the next 2 weeks, that's fine with me. I think every fan would take that too.
Especially with alcohol sales coming in this week, right?
Well, apparently it's not this week now. People are telling me it's Northwestern. So I don't know. People apparently have heard different things. I thought it was this week. Now people
should just make it Minnesota. That should be the first one.
Oh God, that'll be fun with the night game. Yeah.
So they don't sell alcohol in Jordan-Hare. Okay. But around us, there were like 4 fan fights.
I saw a couple on
within like 100 feet of our section, and they were all Auburn on Auburn. So like, they need to everything's falling apart for Auburn, even without alcohol. So like, even without the booze, you still get a lot of trouble in the stands, right? So
yeah, Auburn's going to be a interesting story to watch the rest of this year. I think they still play like 5 teams that are currently ranked. It's going to be a long year for them, I feel like, regardless of kind of the talent. They're just very lost at quarterback right now, I feel like, and their offensive line, which I thought was a decent group from what we saw last year, the way they kind of ran the ball in Penn State. They've taken a massive step backwards too. Yeah,
and the biggest regretful thing on that whole team is probably Tank Bigsby coming back, right? Like, he was in the portal.
Yeah.
Could have been he did. Poor guy.
Yeah, he might regret that. I don't know. He'll just go off to the NFL though now, I think. So he'll be okay. But before we do go, I do have Mr. Nelly's pick'ems for the week. So we have Michigan over Maryland, but he has Maryland covering the 17 points they're being given, which, I mean, maybe I could see. I don't know how I feel about this Maryland team. They seem to do this every year, I feel like, where they just beat the crap out of their out-of-conference opponents, and they want their respect and everything, and then they play like, a Michigan, and they lose by 28. Everyone's like, okay, like, we told you. So we'll see this week. Nelly has them covering. I don't.
It's at Michigan too.
Yeah.
Right. So, they all, 2 years in a row they beat Texas or whatever, right? When Texas wasn't quite Texas. They tend to lack the discipline to make it through a season, right? It's still early in the year, but they will fall apart. Last year they were undefeated going into Iowa and got annihilated, right? By like 40 points and gave up, they had like 6 turnovers. That's the Maryland everybody's expecting. So we'll see if it's this week. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week. And I take Michigan to cover.
Yeah. And then we have Clemson over Wake Forest, but Wake, what I found was +7. So he's counting on a close game, 1-score game here. I could see that. Wake Forest back, Sam Hartman's back at quarterback. I don't know what to make of Clemson. I know I picked Clemson to win the ACC. I think this is honestly the hardest game left on their schedule because I think they're on the road this week, and I think it's their biggest road test.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens there.
Give me Wake, because I
Wake.
picked Clemson as one of the 2 overrated teams. So
true.
If they lose this, they're effectively out of the playoffs because there's going to be 6 undefeated teams. It looks like between a lot. So give me Wake and Sam Hartman.
All right, so we have Baylor over Iowa State. Iowa State's home, and they're 2.5-point favorites from what I saw. So this is technically an upset, even though Baylor is the higher-ranked team. Iowa State's not ranked. Baylor is, even though Baylor has a loss and Iowa State's 3-0. I mean, they beat Iowa. As much as I like to say, that's just Iowa beat themselves because they don't have any offense. So,
yeah, I don't. I'm pretty surprised that Iowa State's favored here. But would you say it's 2.5 and it's at Iowa State? So it's basically pick them like on a neutral field.
Right.
I like the Bears though too.
Yeah, I do too. We got Tennessee over Florida in what a lot of people think is the game of the week. This is it's gonna be high scoring. I think this one's gonna get up. Tennessee likes to push the ball. They like to throw. They get after it. I mean, it's just see how their defense holds up. But I think Tennessee at home is a safe bet here.
It's a 7-point spread from what I saw on ESPN a bit ago. Florida really struggled with South Florida last week. So after their week 1 win over Utah, they lost to Kentucky, struggled last week. I think I'm with Nelly, and I like the Vols here too.
Yeah, and then we have Texas A&M over Arkansas. I think this game's at Texas A&M. Do they ever play on the road?
Against ranked teams, especially. Jeez.
Yeah, so they have is them over Arkansas. Arkansas is a pretty good team. They're undefeated. Pretty sure they are, right? Yeah, I think
they are. They struggled with South Missouri State last week. They were down 17-0 against South Missouri State of the FCS. Came back to beat them. What we got a line here or no?
I don't have it written down, but I will look quickly.
Even at Kyle Field, midnight yell, right?
Minus 1.5 for Texas A&M.
Okay. I want the Hogs to win.
I think they will, honestly.
We'll see what the cadets at midnight yell say about them. Just probably talk about how they can't read or something like they did with the App State guys. That worked out real good. Yeah. Still the dumbest tradition in all of sports. So
yeah, we have not really talked about that, but
oh my god, I hate it.
It's bad. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's just very weird. And then finally, Ohio State over Wisconsin. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Wisconsin already has a loss, and Ohio State is 18.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me is that now both these teams are home, Ohio State and Michigan, but Ohio State more of a favorite over Wisconsin than Michigan over Maryland. I don't know who that says more about. I found that a little interesting. I know it's only 1.5, but
yeah, but you would think. I mean, Wisconsin came into the season ranked 15th, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were. A lot of people picked them to win the West. And we're going to learn a lot about Ohio State's rushing defense this week as well, because the Braylon Allen is awesome, and Wisconsin should be able to run the ball. And if they can't pass the ball, but they can run the ball. So we'll see what that foretells for Halloween weekend.
Yeah, a lot of things to keep an eye on for that 3-game stretch, which hopefully Penn State is 5-0 going into. I'd like to think they are. I think we all be concerned if they weren't, with 2 home games against, I would say, very lesser opponents. So as we both said, let's just on Saturday stay healthy, get out of there.
I got one more for you. One more bit for you. So what will be more? Total offensive yards or punt yards in the Iowa-Rutgers game? So total punt yards or total offense?
Now, this apparently is like the battle between the 2 best punters in the country or something. Like
and the 2 worst offenses. They're both Australian dudes, right?
Yeah, and Iowa has a great defense, which obviously whatever Rutgers can manage on offense is going to be limited. I'm going to take the punt yards. I think that's a safe bet. I think both these teams are going to punt like 7 times, and the game's going to be like
45 or 50 yards apiece. So it'll be like 700 punt yards and like 250 yards each in offense. So yeah,
that's a good one. But yeah, I'll take the punt yards there. That's actually gonna be a fun game to look at in terms of
afterwards, not to watch.
No, definitely not watch. I'm not watching that, but just to go back and look at the box score and see that. I think no one would make an argument if you said the best player on both those teams is their punter. I don't think anyone will argue.
I'm sure Iowa has a All-American offensive lineman or something like that.
Yeah, but still, it feels that way. Like
that's fun to joke around, right? It's fun to be on an undefeated team that plays a not so great MAC opponent this week, and you just kind of do fun stuff. Yeah, so.
Yeah, you could look around a little. It'd be nice to get some Wi-Fi in the stadium so I could kind of watch those other games on my phone during the game. But that day may never come.
Fun fact about Central Michigan: the quarterback from my son's high school team from last year plays for Central Michigan now,
okay,
which is pretty wild because I live in Houston. So, Bert Emanuel Jr.'s son. So I don't remember if you remember Bert Emanuel. He was in the NFL for a while. He's a wide receiver.
Nice.
Look it up.
I will.
But his kid, yeah. So I want them to lose, but I want him to not do terribly if he gets to play.
Yeah, he might play if this gets.
He's a true freshman scholarship quarterback, so we'll see.
So you rarely see them at smaller schools like this right away. So well, that'll be something to look forward to, I guess, when hopefully this game is out of hand. I can look for that. That'll be what I'll be looking for. All right. For Nate, I'm Alec. This episode's only going to be on YouTube. No audio for this one. Just a Central Michigan preview. Yeah, we only get so much time on the audio, so we're gonna keep this one just to YouTube. But thanks for watching.